All right, I'm going to take you back a month. Jed York, 49ers CEO. And by the way, it's been a good week for the 49ers, getting a contract done with George Kittle. Also, Leeds United wins the championship division of the English Soccer League. So, therefore, they are promoted to Premier League for next year, which means more cash flowing into 49ers enterprises. Of course, more cash going out as they have to ramp up their roster. They have to spend more money to be able to compete at the premier level. But anyway, and also coming off the draft. So, will there be more good news coming for the 49ers? And I'm speaking specifically about Brock Purdy's contract. So, we'll talk a little bit about that. But going back to what Jed York said a month ago, in talking about Brock Purdy, when he's ready, we'll sit down and finish it. It shouldn't be that hard to do. Okay, so that tells you right there that the 49ers had an offer out to Brock Purdy, and they've had an offer out for quite some time. I'm thinking it's right there in that 50 million range. And then Brock Purdy's side, I'm sure if the 49ers had come in with an offer at 60 million, this deal would be done. So now what does it mean? Where do the sides come together? And how do they go about putting together, kind of cutting into that difference? And I don't think it's a $10 million difference by any stretch. I think the sides are probably coming closer together. And Mike Florio over at Pro Football Talk had some interesting thoughts on this. He has a background, a legal background, and really kind of sinks his teeth into the whole contract situation. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first off, wanted to remind you that this video is brought to you by Canyon Club Brewery with a new location at the Livery in Danville. So be sure to check that out. They do have a wide selection of beers, different varieties of beers, all that good stuff. Also, a very tasty menu, fun for the whole family. It's a good place to hang out on a nice, warm spring evening or summer evening. Also, they still have the location in Moraga, also, both places. Great outdoor space to bring the family. And so, anyway, check it out. I'm sure I'll be at the that location in Danville very soon. Canyon Club Brewery. There it is. I got the hat, rocking the hat, the Canyon Club hat. Okay, so what Mike Florio had to do, what he said was that basically the contract for Kittle is kind of used as a template because the 49ers were working kind of on parallel tracks, contract for Kittle, contract for Brock Purdy, that there are some major clues put into the George Kittle structure and contract that can be applied to the Brock Purdy structure and contract. So, and I think we are coming upon another kind of soft deadline. Brock Purdy, by the way, I was at the Warriors game on Friday night, and Brock Purdy was there with his dad and his brother, checking out the Warriors game, which through three quarters was pretty good. And then Warriors absolutely laid an egg. Rockets took off in the fourth quarter. But anyway, kind of the soft next deadline is this coming week with the opening of phase two of the offseason program. Phase one was just conditioning, wasn't any on-field work with coaches. But during this phase two, and it's a 3-week phase of the 49ers offseason program, on-field work is allowed either with individuals or group instruction, and they can have drills, which they call perfect plays, meaning you run a drill on air and it's not offense versus defense, and then wherever mess ups are they redo it, that kind of thing. So you can have offensive players lining up across from other offensive players and defensive players lining up across from other defensive players just to give the look of what the defense or what the offense would look like that other side of the ball is going up against. So all these practices are done, or these the on-field work is done at walkthrough speed. There's no live contact, no pads, of course. And then later on is the OTAs, where it's actually offense versus offense, defense versus defense. So my point is that this coming week is the first time that Brock Purdy can be out there with the offense. And I would think the 49ers would like to get something getting done here. And I'm sure Brock Purdy would like to have something getting done. And just to go back to what Jed York said, When he's ready, we'll sit down and finish it. It shouldn't be that hard. So I know a lot will be made of the average per year. And, it's all kind of funny money to a degree because, Dak Prescott signed a new contract and the new money on that is 60 million a year. And that is kind of held up as the contract that is at the top of the list at quarterbacks. I'm not sure it necessarily is. And then and that was the new money that he signed less than a year ago. Josh Allen signed a new deal earlier this offseason, and that new money is actually 87 million per year. But it goes on top of whatever he had remaining on his contract. But the new money, a lot of money. So it averages out for Josh Allen 55 million a year, theoretically for Dak Prescott 60 million. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. With Kittle's contract, as Pro Football Talk pointed out, Kittle's new contract has 2 years fully guaranteed at the time of signing. So from that, we can infer that Brock Purdy will have 2 years fully guaranteed, maybe even a third year. And when Mike Florio writes this, he says a not so wild guess, which tells you that he believes he has some inside information. But he says his not so wild guess is that Brock Purdy will have 2 years fully guaranteed at $90 million guaranteed at the time of signing. And then he could have a smaller guarantee in the third year of $10 million. So, that's a lot of money. Also, he says that there would be an opportunity for him through his performance, some, not totally unrealistic triggers, performance triggers that could push up that third year guarantee to 20 million. Okay, now the one thing that I talked about with Kittle's contract is clearly when the 49ers got this deal, when Kittle did the deal, they wanted to push him over Trey McBride, who a few weeks ago signed a contract that pays him $19 million a year, average per year. It was very clear that it was a priority for Kittle to make more than 19 million, 19.1 to be exact. And in order to do that, the third year non-guaranteed, or not the third year, the final year, 2029, final year non-guaranteed salary is 22.45 million. So by boosting it up that much, that raises him just over Trey McBride. So that is something that with Brock Purdy's deal, I think could probably be expected that the new money average per year will kind of be inflated by some high numbers later in the contract, whether it's a 4 year extension or a 5 year extension. Say if it's a 5 year extension, years 4 and 5 could have really high salaries of, say, 60 million a year. So I think that the sides aren't too far off. Like I said, from what I understand, the 49ers initially about 50 million a year. And now they're, I would think that, somewhere, now that number I'm sure has been raised. That was kind of the floor. And, it's a kind of a give and take, a jockeying back and forth. And everybody does get fixated, and rightfully so, because it's just an easy number to digest, the average per year. But there's the other parts of it, the guaranteed money, how it's structured, how much money in the first 3 years of the contract, and everything of that nature. So while I don't at this point get the sense that something is imminent, I think that having Kittle sign his deal is a very positive first step in order to get these sides together. And it doesn't take much for a deal to get done at this point. I don't think that there's any indication that this is going to be a stalemate that lasts well into the summer. It behooves both sides to get something done for the 49ers, avoiding the drama of a year ago, especially for a player at that position, how important that is. Brock Purdy has just been going about his business, showing up at the offseason program, going about his work as a leader should. but also certainly does not want the distraction of this being out there and people continuing to talk about it and wondering if the 49ers can avoid the same kind of pratfalls of a year ago when very clearly the vibe around the 49ers was not positive throughout the offseason because of three very significant contract issues. First, Christian McCaffrey got his done with relative ease, even though he missed the first. He did not attend the offseason program until that deal was done. And then, of course, Trent Williams with the holdout, Brandon Ayuk with the hold in, and coincidence or not, all three of those guys sustained injuries and made zero impact on the 2024 season. So that's the update. Brock Purdy, the contract, what it could look like, what it will look like when it eventually gets done, and then the 49ers entering phase two of the offseason program. All right, thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it, got something out of it. Leave a comment, a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. And that is it for now.